Coach Roach, Mrs. Sandra Roach at Inca Bar Cafe in Pinecrest, the new Inca Bar.
Yes.
This place just opened. So do you drink coffee?
I drink coffee, but I love tea.
Okay, so you rather do tea over
Yeah,
coffee.
it's healthier.
Okay, see, I'm not that type of person. But I like being here at Inca. It's just different, a different vibe, and it's a little later. So after I hit a certain point, I don't do caffeine anymore.
Okay.
And I'm on a diet.
Ah!
So coffee conversations, tea conversations today. When I met you, like, instantly I was like, oh, I like this girl. That was what? No, that was almost 2 years ago.
Almost 2 years ago.
Because I met you a couple of weeks after I got married. Or a few months after I got married.
Yeah.
It was right after at some point.
Okay.
Yeah, I met you right after I got married at a friend's get-together downtown.
Yes.
And I remember the reason why, like, you stuck out to me at that time is because, like, everybody who I would talk to, I would say, oh, yeah, like, I'm recently married. They'd be like, oh, okay, that won't last for long. And you were like one of the only people.
I was like, yay! I was so excited for you.
To be happy. And I was like, oh, I like her. I mean, not in a weird way, but you know, sometimes people can be kind of like cynical about marriage or whatever. And you have never been like that. You're just always super positive. And from the moment I met you, like that stuck out about you. But besides being a wife and a mom of two, you're an author, a new author. But you know, go ahead and say like a few other things for everyone who doesn't know everything you've done.
Yeah, for the most part, I'm definitely in life. I feel like life is all about options, and you shouldn't limit yourself by any type of labels or whatever your degree is, and just live life to the fullest. So that's why, as an engineer, my background is electrical engineering. I'm minored in math and physics.
Smart. Like real smart.
And so in doing that, I did that for a little bit, and then from there I transitioned to start my own tutoring company. So I've been doing that for the last 10 years. So I'm an entrepreneur doing that, and the interesting thing about doing that, as I was helping my students, I started helping my parents, talking and communicating and helping people set goals. And that's how I kind of went into the life coaching piece. And I always kid around that, you know, as a life coach, Coach Roach, it rhymes. That's how I know I'm walking in purpose.
There's a brand.
So that's how I know I'm walking in purpose. But ultimately, it's, I don't want to limit myself to the different possibilities. As I was helping people and helping my students, I used to ask them what they wanted to be when they grew up, and they didn't really know, and so I felt the need to kind of help. I see the world as a big, big science problem. Like I look at issues and I look for ways to solve them. So in the various aspects of my life, I'm constantly solving problems. It's funny because I've been with my husband about 20 years, dating him. Yes.
When?
In October will be 20 years.
Will it really?
Yes, from the day I met him.
Oh, from when you met him? I'm
yeah.
like, wait,
no, dating him.
I meet you?
You know something? I always think about the day I met him because that's my first anniversary.
And you met your husband in college?
Yes, I did. He is my college sweetheart. I met my husband in college on his birthday because like we got married in our early 20s, and so when you know, you know. You know, when you know who you're supposed to be with, it lines up.
And you and your husband also teach at your church,
Yes.
Like marriage counseling, I should say.
Yes.
So you all are like really good at this.
He is good.
Yeah, and I'm 2 years in. You are that great person to always talk to get advice that kind of like brings you out of like, you know, I don't want to say always your angry zone, but you always give, sometimes you get angry. You always give a good perspective, like a bigger perspective.
Yeah.
How did that come to be? Like, how were you, was that something you learned along the way, or did you have a marriage, or do you have like a marriage role model?
Interesting enough, I watched my parents growing up, Sometimes people expect marriages to be perfect, and they're not. They have their ups and downs. As I watched my parents, I know my mom, they got married early and they were together, and they had 7 kids. So that's a lot, right? Yeah. So just watching their interaction day to day, how they dealt with issues, so the successes and the pitfalls of marriage. I learned with them that there's going to be good times and you celebrate those good times. Mm-hmm. But when there's not so good, how do you stick together? Mm-hmm. Oftentimes nowadays, when things get bad, people just want to let go and leave the marriage alone. But I learned through watching them that you're going to stick it out with the one you love, because you have to, especially when kids are involved. You definitely stay, but you learn how to interact with each other in the whole spectrum of things, just making sure things are going to be fine. So I learned that from them, just the balance of this thing called marriage, where one is cooking and the other one's cleaning, or if they're both going to work, making sure someone's washing the kids or washing the clothes. So I learned that marriage wasn't honky-dory. It is hard work. Marriage is work, but you have to put in the work to make it happen.
One thing that sticks out with you and Isaac and talking with you is that both of you all are very intentional. Mm-hmm. I remember one thing you told me that stuck with me. I don't even I remember that you said this, but you said that anytime one of you all enters a room, you always get up to either hug each other or greet each other.
Yes.
And I'm like, that is just, and it's the things I love about what you'll suggest are they're so small and intentional, because then that made me think about, like, wow, there's sometimes like Stephen walk in a room and you're just busy. You know, like,
I got stuff to do.
or whatever. And like how taking that moment, how that could change his day, or vice versa, even for me.
You're right.
When did you all start? I mean, like, was that something you decided on, right?
I think it's something I decided. The more you learn about how husbands want respect and the wives, we want to be loved, I was just thinking, how can I show my husband respect? By stopping whatever I do. And so we call it stop, drop, and greet. So no matter where we are in the room, if he enters the house, if he's like, hey, I'm home, if we're upstairs, we're like, stop, drop, and greet. And so we drop whatever we're doing, and then we go and greet him. Hey, Dad, how are you? Hey, honey. Give him a hug and kiss. So hang around for about 60 seconds, 30 seconds, and now we jet and do whatever we need to do. But we stopped and gave him his due diligence. Like, you are the head of the household. You are Dad. You're my honey. And we respect you, and we make sure he's fine.
And so we started this.
Yay!
Yes. Yeah, so we started this. So the iScored 30-day intimacy challenge. And actually, you gave this to me right before I was on a trip. So I was trying extra hard that week, like talking about like having a full tank, because it's hard when you're working away. And me and Stephen both can have weeks where we travel. So it's good to just be intentional. And that's what I really liked about this. What was the purpose behind iScored when you started it?
Well, most of the time when I used to ask people how they were doing, especially if you knew they were married, they said either they were divorced or weren't seeing each other anymore. So I was kind of perplexed. And as I was thinking about what's the whole purpose of iScored, and I came up with 3 things. It's to strengthen relationships, keep married couples married, and provide fun ways to date your mate. And you never want to get to the relationship where you're roommates, where you're just passing here, looking at schedule. It is, especially if you're busy. And so I decided that, I don't want to read mine. I want to meet my spouse's need, but it works better if I know what it is, because people's minds change and their needs change frequently. So the book actually came from the whole iScored concept. And iScored is a way for couples to increase intimacy by deliberately dating your mate. I believe that whatever you did to get your spouse to say I do should continue within the marriage. And so iScored, the game itself, starts off with, as a wife, you writing down what you want. And it has to do with the different types of intimacies, the verbal, spiritual, recreational, intellectual, physical, emotional intimacy. All of it's important because it's a whole person. And then he would write down what he wants. And then what ends up happening, because we have an app the app switches up and gives you access to his list, and he has your list. And as he's going through your lists, whatever's on your list, if he does it, he gets a point.
Yep.
Isn't that wonderful? So what happens is he's scoring with you by meeting your needs, and you're scoring with him by meeting his needs, and they're specific. We're trying to show the world and show people that marriage can be fun. You don't have to, our whole thing is the date night, iScored at date night, that's our hashtag. You don't have to do a movie and dinner date. You can do so much more with your spouse. And it doesn't even have, and then with the intimacy challenges, it's showing that you don't have to spend a whole lot of money to connect
Simple things.
with you. It's the going down memory lane, doing a puzzle together, a game, exercising together. I think it's some fun stuff in the book. So we're just showing people and couples how to be intentional, like I said, in your marriage and in your relationship.
For you, when you started this, the iScored, and just
so I said, I didn't answer the question. It's been about 2 years.
2 years. Wow, it seems like it's been longer. Well, I guess so. Since when I met you, then you had just.
I had just did it. Yeah, I had just left it.
So when I met you, you had just launched this.
Yeah. So this is 2000. Maybe about 2 years, 2.5 years, I would say.
So 2 years. What if you have a spouse or a partner who's like, I'm not into like games, or like where would you start?
I would say listen. The first part of communicating is listen. I went through it. It takes a lot to even get to this point where we're actually communicating. But what ends up happening, sometimes one spouse is talking, someone may be interrupting, or they're not listening, they're waiting to respond. So listening to your spouse is a big thing, and even with an activity for that is just holding a pillow or a ball and be like, okay, whoever has this is talking and they have a minute to talk, to share their heart and truly listen and respond. So if you're not into games, I would say the book would be a great resource, because you can sift through it. I'm a type of person where I go through a book, I go through the table of contents and pick where I want to go. So if someone's not into game and they're into words, they would pick something that has to do with a verbal intimacy. And if a spouse is into physical, they would go into a physical intimacy and switching it up, or intellectual. Some people just want to hang out and talk about dreams and goals. So I would say the book would be a good resource to at least start the conversation. And so that's what I would say.
Listening.